Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of AscendCast. And this is a podcast where we dig deep into your questions so that we can rise higher through the answers together. My name is Joanna Rarefied. I'm a mother's empowerment coach, and I am a guide to helping people harness their personal power. And I am joined today by Professor Bruce Newman. How are you, Professor Newman?
Very good, thank you. How are you, Joanna?
I'm great, thank you. So how did you feel last time after our first episode? How did you feel it went?
I don't have much idea about my feelings about that. I guess that, as usual, I'm quite talented to say a lot of rubbish. So I'm quite confident for this new episode.
Okay, great. Well, then let's dive right into it. So there is sort of a few questions around death. So why not start with death?
I love this topic.
Yes, I think everybody just loves this topic. So let's go into it. And so it's a number of questions from Franco from Southsea here in England. And we're going to start with the first, and that's why are we so afraid of death? Or why are some people so afraid of death? What are your thoughts on that to begin?
Why are we afraid of death? We do have an ego. Humans have an ego, but animals have an ego as well. And pretty much any organism, somehow. Dogs have ego dogs, and birds have ego birds. Humans have an ego humans. But still, we all have in common that we all afraid by death. This ego as a software is here in order to protect us. It's here to ensure our survival. Once we delete, dry, burn, obliterate this ego, there is no fear of death anymore. But then in this way, there wouldn't be any room for the blooming of life as we know it. We can consider death from many aspects and point of views. But already the question is on the table, what is death? Is it a door which get closed? Or instead of that, a door which get opened?
Well, that leads into the second part of the question already. And before we go into that and asking the question about why are we so scared of death, like, I feel like it's just part of our social upbringing as well. Like as a child, I just remember my parents, mourning other people's death and being afraid of family members dying. So I grew up being terrified about death, terrified about the idea of my parents dying. Um, so I think yeah, like it's innate and it's natural, but it's also, a societal thing where people don't understand it. So maybe that's a perfect way to go into the next part. And is that, do we really die? And is it a door closing or is it a door opening?
There would be different points of view in order to answer to this question. We can go, of course, on some mystical considerations. But as I'm not a fan of controversy, I like to I'd like to go on a speech which could be out of discussions, and let's go on this topic through the lens of quantum physics. From the studies, quantum physicists just realized that, in a matter of fact, our perception doesn't come from actually the perception of a brain. Brain is only composed by neurons, which are here to keep you in motion. Plants doesn't have a brain. They don't have neurons. And still they're perceiving lots of informations. Our consciousness is actually perceiving 10 millions of informations every second. And even better, our consciousness is perceiving those informations 2 seconds in the future. All those informations are reorganized and delivered in some sort of cooking pot, giving us the sensation of 3D image and Dolby stereo sound in 3D, which is actually completely delusional. But mostly, quantum physicists did realize that the consciousness is not local. You can't determine a particular place in your body hosting the consciousness. Even the pineal gland, there's no such things. If the consciousness is not local, what would be the conclusion? What would you say, Joanna? What can if the consciousness is not local, where is it then?
Yeah, if it's not local, then it's collective, universal. So
You're already going on a quantum leap. As far as it's not local, yeah, of course, it's out of the body. As far as it's out of the body, it means that physically speaking, because let's figure out that even if the consciousness is an infinitely small vibrational phenomenon, and we cannot say exactly that it's electric. A consciousness wouldn't host electrons. Still, it's a vibratory phenomenon. As far as its vibratory phenomenon, it's an energetic phenomenon. And somehow could advance that as far as it's energetic, it's a matter. Then, well, if the consciousness is not hosted in a body-mind organism, therefore it's hosted in space. Interestingly, we did figure out that space by itself is draining much more information than matter. Whatsoever, as far as this consciousness, which is the seat of our perception, is not localized in our body. It means something. Pretty much, our consciousness doesn't need a body to perceive informations, which would lead the quantum physicists to this weird and uncomfortable conclusion. And that's at this point that they start to have some headache. And they run into India to speak with spiritual masters to get more information to their equations. It will necessarily mean that out of a body, even if this body die, perish, the consciousness will still perceiving information, data. Whereas information would be perceived from a different vibratory level, not from a body-mind organism. And this consciousness would lose its power of discrimination in the way that this consciousness will perceive information without an ego. In order to elevate itself, rise its own vibration, this consciousness needs to experience its own perception through an ego. That's why this consciousness will feel the need, and it will happen automatically, to reconnect again to some other body-mind organism in order to work on itself, work on its own expansion, so to speak. Of course, there are still concepts But then, as far as this consciousness is located in space, and you did go to this point, Joanna, but you done a shortcut, then if we go so fast, there would be no room for a podcast then, because we already have the end of the movie. What to do? As far as this consciousness is located in space, of course, we can't relate to a body in particular. And this consciousness is, in a matter of fact, collective. All those body-mind organism, you, me, and you in the audience watching this video, are using the exact same consciousness that we all experiencing differently from the point of view of this very particular body-mind organism.
Hmm.
Then
So
the
then,
question of, sorry.
No, go on, please.
Please, you're on the screen.
So that leads on to the next part of the question, but it sounds like there was more, you had more to say. But from that perspective, how can we shift our perception of death to make it a force for empowerment while we're still alive in this body and not a program of fear and limitation? So
Question is legit.
Yeah, I mean, with that understanding, it's definitely a force for empowerment, understanding and realizing that we're here to grow and expand, and that we are limited by time and space. I think that alone is quite empowering while we're still alive. What are your thoughts on that?
That's the products of incarnation. Consciousness needs to experience itself through an ego in order to delete this ego and understand its own nature. The way which would lead us to stop being scared by death would be to already understand our true nature, spot what is an ego, but mostly understand which is our identity. Ego could reach different forms. Already we do identify ourselves to a physical body, basically. And a lot of people are. They sincerely think that they are their body. The physical body by itself is perceiving a lot of informations. The body is full of neurons everywhere. There is more neurons in your stomach than in the brain of a dog. And in some point, some are reaching a further level and do understand that they probably not their body. They probably are their thoughts, their emotions. In a matter of fact, folks are somehow electricity, emotions as well. Folks are energy, therefore they are matter. And the subtle body is a cluster of all our perceptions, thoughts, emotions, and all our senses, the taste, the smell, the touch. We hear things, we see things. But still, when we stop thinking, we can still feel our being. And it leads us to another body, which we could call the body of silence. And still, silence has its own deepness. You can dig into silence. But even then, silence is still a state. It's a lake of informations. And still, it's a sensation. The sensation of silence. If you go further on what we could call a stateless state, even the silence would not remain. What we can really call death is beyond time and space and beyond the silence by itself. We can't imagine death. We can't conceptualize death. And in a matter of fact, death, the stateless state, is a realm which is incredibly hard to reach. Very few people would effectively be able to reach this state. All we can do is humbly consider it as a direction. Because in a matter of fact, this is our real identity. The ego is here to protect this body, mind, organism, and makes him think that he is real and he needs to be protected.
So, what would you say then with the last part of the question? So, making it a force for empowerment and not a program of fear and limitation. I feel like a lot of the fear around death comes from religious programming. That at the end of your life, there will be judgment placed upon you, and it's heaven or hell. And I think that instead of viewing life as this opportunity for self development, a lot of people feel like they're, ticking good and bad boxes with their actions. So what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on the monotheistic religions that say this is one life, you're not going to reincarnate, and you're going to live in either an eternal heaven or hell?
Oh, you're treating me badly today, Joanna.
That was my own addition. No, nobody sent that question in.
I thought that this podcast was about massage and how to breathe. Inhale, exhale.
Yeah, we're sending you a curveball today.
What I would like to say is that religion are a treasure for quantum physicists.
Hmm. How so?
All the best equations are already there.
Hmm.
Ancient Testament is speaking about Big Bang. All ancient histories, like all the events which did appear before the glaciations, the ice age. Everything is on the Bible. They're speaking a lot about the Atlantid, the Hyperborean. No need for YouTube.
So what about the heaven and hell bit?
I coming. Let me do my introduction. The heaven is when you realize the truth, isn't it? And hell is when you live on lies. When you don't see things as they are, you're unnecessarily suffering. There is a pain of a body. And it could only be even if this pain of the body is so high, and my goodness, I got some teeth problem. I'm scared about this pain. I had the dentist. But whatsoever, this pain would be temporary, could not last. As far as the body by itself is temporary, it doesn't mean to last. Meanwhile, the metaphysical pain, the pain of our soul, could last way longer. It could lead us to suffer during all this incarnation. But eventually, even when we do leave our body, pain is a teacher. It's here to give us an information we are going on the wrong direction. So it is with hell. Hell is not much valid information expressing to us that we're not supposed to stay here. As far as you're hosting a clandestine passenger, which is the ego, which is not much but a crutch in order to keep us alive, keep the body-mind organism alive. But on some point, this crutch has to be dropped off. Go to the toilet with a crutch, and I can tell you, this moment in the loo gonna be a very painful experience. As far as we're drawn by thoughts, emotions, signals, information which are not legit, which has nothing to do here. As far as we're carrying this ego, we're carrying this weight, this clandestine passenger. And in a matter of fact, we're carrying our own pain. Heaven wants from silence. And silence may be a driver of eternity. You connect me to the religion and so forth, Joanna. So obviously, I become mystical. What to do?
So, in these texts and with the messaging, this is going in a completely different direction. Do you believe that it's been put there to appeal to the ego? Is that messaging there to cause fear, to instill fear in people, to promote good behavior?
Let's be very clear about that. It's not only that I don't have any problem with religion, with religions. Never as a philosopher or scientist. But even better, I love religions. All of them. I've been personally studying all of them. Kabbalah, Judaism, Christianity, Quran, Taoism. They're all good. What does mean yoga in Indian? Fundamentally and metaphysically, yoga, it has nothing to do with stretching. Yoga is this principle to rely different polarities, which are opposites. It's the way to rely the earth to the sky. That's the purpose of our incarnation, yoga. Religion are not much than a tutorial for awakening. But it's expressed on from depending on the culture. It's expressed on very various ways. And depending on the cultures, there's a lot of restrictions, which are a bonus out of the tutorial in order to survive socially. which has not necessarily much to do with spirituality, metaphysics, or mystic. But the core of all the religion is to propose a method to rise your vibrational state, to rise the vibration of your consciousness. Prayers are not much but meditations with an intention. Some methods are more intellectuals, such as Rig Vedas, Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, or Hebraic mystics, the Kabbalah, Zohar, which includes mathematics. Some other ways are more devotional, such as Quran, Christian religions. Some other ways are more into practice, Karma Yoga, Soto Zen, proposing various practices of meditation. There is not one method better than the other. And the thing is that those methods are coming through different ages. So the language is different. Language is different, I'm sorry. And symbols would be different. And oftenly, it would always about the expression of metaphors. Jesus Christ was always teaching, always with parabolas. He was teaching to uneducated people, illiterate. So he was using the symbols, metaphors of their daily life. How to fish. What is a seed? And so on. Some says that Christian religion is an underrated method that most of the people don't understand, unless some Buddhist monks in Himalaya. Metaphorically speaking, the ego is the devil, it's the demon, it's the liar. Heaven is the potential power of the consciousness to dissolve itself beyond the realm of manifestation and perception. Whatever is perceived would be the subject of interpretation. And whatever the interpretation would be, it would never be accurate. It would always be a point of view. Heaven is this ability not to judge, not to interpret, and to reach a state which wouldn't be about perceiving, neither feeling, not even observing or witnessing. Heaven would be this state when the witness would observe a witness. As far as the witness by itself is an object of the mental. And the mental is, of course, a cage. And as far as you live in slavery, you live in pain. Only the freedom to be able to be out of interpretation could lead you to this relief. I guess, Joanna, I'm in super good shape to work as a machine gun of rubbishes today. Let's go to the next question.
I just wanted to say one thing. So this just came to me. So when you're talking about hell and being sort of trapped in the ego, could hell then be a representation of being forever incarnated within an ego?
You like to touch me today, huh?
I know you wanted to move on, but there's still so much more.
I thought I've been good to you, like a benevolent and
oh boy,
a good person, hearing, not judging. Most of people think that they can't live with an ego. That without an ego, they would lose the sense of themselves. But fundamentally, the nature of ego is fear. This fear is here for something initially. It's here to protect your body. You're scared, which leads you to some instinct of survival. And it would lead you to simply run away, stop thinking, connect to your adrenaline, and run as fast as you can. This ego is developed, and then further, the thoughts are a product of ego. And the thoughts has been developed in the human body-mind organism. It appear on the head of this monkey. in order to help him to consider himself not only through space but through time as well. Faults has been established in order that this monkey could somehow predict the future from a rational way and understand what's going to happen next. And it became for him a superpower, leading him to be the alpha predator in the jungle. Such a superpower. But basically, all ego are built from fear. And when there's no more danger anymore in the surrounding, normally there's no need for the ego to stay here, to function. There's no danger. Everything is all right. Fear is a signal which is painful. That liberates a lot of toxic chemicals in the organism. And still, even if there's no threat, the ego automatically is still functioning. Yeah, get scared. Like you need more money, get scared. Oh, your neighbor has more money than you do. Get scared. Oh, this guy is stinking. It's probably dangerous. Get scared. Hit them. So as far as his ego is consciously just sustaining the consciousness with signals of fear, it's consciously sustaining the consciousness with signals of pain. And then the whole incarnation is just reduced about that. Successions of painful experiences and moments. And on some point, there time to time some relief. Dopamine. Orgasm. Good food. Sugar-tasty moments. Entertainment. The ego is relaxed for a very brief moment. And then it goes again. Oh, I'm scared. Beware. So this mental will be pursuing more sugar-tasty moments, more orgasms, more sugar, in order to try its best to avoid its pain. But in matter of fact, it's just a way to the ego to avoid its own existence and eventually grow. And then therefore producing even more intense signals of fear. And then the pain will grow. So hell is all about that. It's supposed to be a constant torture. Isn't it the case of most of people? I don't know how much I'm eloquent on this one. I try my best.
I think we'll close it off there. The death conversation, the heaven and hell. And I think what we should do is get a little bit practical for the for the remainder of the show, because we've got a really good practical question here. And it comes from Nora from London. And she asks, how can I bring the healing power of nature into my daily routine, even if I'm living in an urban environment?
Mm.
Such a good question. And there are so many great tools. I think a lot of people think, I mean, going out in nature, taking a walk in the forest, like dipping your feet in a natural body of water are all amazing, but there are other ways to connect with nature.
It makes me feel drifting here a little bit to fraud shamanism. The first spiritual connection of mankind has been shamanic.
Can
That's
you
pretty much
explain what that means for people who don't know?
it's
Please?
pretty much the awareness that and somehow the intuitive awareness that consciousness is not only proper to humans, but it's globally shared with animals, but not only, with plants as well. And out there, and here I'm positioning myself from a scientific point of view. Consciousness is as well present in non-organic states, such as the rocks. A human incarnation would be relied to consciousness, which would perceive time on a special thickness. A human will perceive time, and meanwhile, a cat, consciousness of a cat will perceive time differently, 2 times faster. A fly would eventually perceive time even faster. Depends. A plant would perceive time. Thickness of time of a plant is different. We do understand that time plants are perceiving informations, but a plant would perceive time 2,000 times slower than a human. And interestingly, for instance, if you take a vine and you accelerate on time lapse, you're filming a vine and you accelerate it on the time lapse 2,000 times, you will see this vine crawling on the wall as an animal. Rocks then have their own consciousness. Stones have their own consciousness, which is, we're still here speaking about a perception of manifestation, which is non-organic, which would go 10 million times slower than a human. The earth is principle GAIA by itself, has its own consciousness, which is perceiving time 10 million times slower than humans. If you film the Earth from a satellite and you accelerate it, you would see the earth breathing. Inhale, exhale. It would come to be obvious. In this way, fundamentally, the connection to nature is not only a matter of sensations, it's a matter of consciousness. You can live in a city and still there would be parks. You could walk barefoot on the grass, on the lawn, and of course, immediately you would feel some huge electromagnetic difference going through all your energetical body. But one step further, there would be trees. And this feeling of connection with nature would go through your ability to wire your consciousness to the consciousness of this tree. Understanding its own rhythm. In this park, there would be animals. You wouldn't necessarily be able to go too close to them, but still you can perceive them. And if you're close enough, and if you're subtle enough, you can connect to their consciousness and therefore feel what they feel. Perceive the environment in the way they are perceiving their environment. You would succeed to do that if you're fundamentally driven by this concept, which is compassion. Compassion is all about feeling the passion of some foreign organism and understand it as if it was your own. Modern humans are weird animals, completely disconnected from their environment, but even better, locked in a world where they're perceiving events, life, interactions, completely mechanically. They're completely locked to the rational brain, and they include this rationality to the behaviors and eventually emotions, leading them to some basic reactions, which are necessarily all about survival. In this way, there's no room for them to understand their emotional intelligence. If they can't understand their emotional intelligence, even can't connect with it, they can't connect neither one step further to their intuition. And still they're completely lost because the only tool they have to consider what is good or bad is the rational brain, as if you couldn't figure out intuitively what is good or bad. When something is good, healthy for your soul, you feel it. And when it's bad, you don't have to think to know it. I don't know. I'm serious on this one, but I guess I slightly mean it in the way that modern humans are inclined to only function upon the rational intelligence is a pity. And one reasonable person can only despite this kind of behavior. Sorry saying that.
That's an important discussion, isn't it? Rational intelligence versus emotional intelligence. And perhaps that's what we can start our show off with next episode. What do you think?
My great pleasure. It's always a pleasure to share this show with you, Joanna. I remind you all that Joanna is an incredible coach.
Thank you.
And I will encourage you to reach her for some sessions.
Thank you for the endorsement. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in this time. And we look forward to seeing you next time.